Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. From factory floors to smart homes, threat intelligence for OT and IoT. I am Shilpa Sharma, and I will be your host for the day. Before we get started, we would like to go over a few house rules. For our attendees, the session will be in listen-only mode and will last for an hour, out of which last 15 minutes will be dedicated to Q&A. Also, admissions are currently open. For further details about our courses, please visit our website www.eccu.edu. Our speaker for today's session, Asif Hameed Khan. Asif is a cybersecurity professional who focuses on OT, IoT, and emerging technologies. He has almost a decade of cybersecurity experience in different realms and industry. Asif often speaks at local and international podcasts, conferences, and webinars. Some noteworthy ones are the OTISP Cybersecurity Symposium and the ROOTCON Hacking Conference. Asif started his non-profit and open source community in 2018, namely OTISP, OT Threat Information Sharing Platform, which aims to bolster collaboration between industry leaders in OT cybersecurity, AI, and emerging technologies. Without any further delay, I would hand over the session to you, Asif.
Thank you so much, Shilpa. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for attending the webinar. I'm Asif Hameed Khan and I'll be your speaker today. And just as a starting ritual, I'm gonna read out loud my disclaimer, which is the examples, analysis, views, and opinions I share in the webinar will be my own and not endorsed by my current employer, clients, or their respective employers. I'm taking part in this webinar in my personal capacity as a sole, and all my contribution will be not profit to EC Council. All right, so moving ahead, these are the agenda today that we will be discussing. So I'll go one by one just to give brief context what we are discussing further. So we'll start with the cyber threat intelligence refresher. It's like a 2 slides wherein I'll give you a brief about cyber threat intelligence and try to do justice with this big topic and complex topic. Then we'll talk about traditional CTI within the organization, how CTI is embedded within the organization and which department and what are the roles and responsibilities associated with it. And then we will talk about IoT and OT ecosystem, and we'll try to give you comparative analysis that how IoT and OT threat intelligence differ. And it's not like one size fits all, and why you need different approach for the same. And then we'll talk about current state of IoT and OT CTI within the organization, and we'll talk about challenges by providing you reference architecture of the threat intelligence, which is like a 3-tier model we have designed in order to express and provide a better understanding of CTI within the organization. Then we'll talk about challenges and how we mitigate those challenges on a very brief scale. And then we'll talk about future state of IoT and OT CTI. And second last, we will discuss about CTI and risk management, how this CTI can overlap with risk management and what are the key pointers of overlap. And then we'll talk about future trends to look after, and then we conclude the session with our Q&A. Let's start it with the first slide. So what is CTI? So if you see at a very core level, it's extraction of intelligence from the data. So if you can see on a left-hand side, you have a bunch of data in your organization. It could be humongous amount of data you have, and then you extract information out of that data. And when you have multiple information in a massive scale, you try to bring out the intelligence out of it. And in order to transform data into your intelligence, on the right-hand side, you follow intelligence lifecycle, which is like a framework which will teach you how you can go from A to Z when it comes to defining intelligence from the data. And then, which is the last one, levels of intelligence, it's aftermath, that once you have performed the intelligence lifecycle and transform your intelligence, what kind of intelligence you need. And we have 3 kinds of intelligence broadly, which is strategic, which is only catering to CXO level and board level members. And ideally, it's non-technical in nature. It is just to provide an organization on a very broad level what are the threats associated with their sector and with the flavor of business which they do. And the middle one is the tactical, which is a technical in nature, and tactical is usually that you see in OT, IoT, vendor provide you some threat intelligence feeds, indicator of compromise, indicator of attacks. They provide you some information like Yara rules just to match the malware. So those kind of intelligence is tactical intelligence pertaining to certain APTs. And then you have operational intelligence when you real-time analyze your data within the organization. That is where the operational things come in, and it includes procedure as well, that how you're going to operationalize the intelligence within your organization. Moving forward, I took this beautiful diagram from CrowdStrike, and I'm not a really fan of this curve, which is going from left to right. However, if you consider the use cases within the tactical intelligence, operational intelligence, and strategic intelligence, it's very crisp and concise in nature. So if you look in the tactical one, for example, threat feeds, you have real-time alerts, you have automated malware analysis, whether you are using any run sandbox and other sandbox within your OT environment. So these are technical and very precise to the system, tactical intelligence. Then you have operational intelligence, and to be OT, IoT specific, patch prioritization and IR will be the important one in this. However, I'm not demanding all the one, but these two are very important. And then in the strategic, you have threat research, you have honeypots and all these honey nets deployed, and then insider threat analysis, campaign tracking, and all this intelligence is like non-technical in nature because it's catering to your higher level or board members and CXO level people. Moving forward, so in this slide, we'll talk about how CTI sit within the organization. So realistically, it sits within our cybersecurity, which is very obvious. And then you have cyber threat intelligence department, or it could be some team members within your cybersecurity department who will handling, which comprises of certain analysts doing their day-to-day job and analyzing current threats, emerging threats, either from external sources or internal sources, and communicating with IR department. And then they're communicating to SOC as well. So the interface between CTI and IR is to aid the IR activities. For example, if something happened and you are in the contentment in the eradication phase of your IR, CTI can provide a lot of information about the incident and how you can go with that incident to perform a better IR, meaningful IR. And same goes to Security Operations Center. If you have CTI in place and a good intersection between SOC, it provides a current threat feeds and everything. And not just to mention, CTI team members also manages your threat incident champion has to reach out to enterprise IR procedures, which is followed. So this is the interface between these two. And if you see Security Operations Center, you will see the interface that sometimes, not sometimes, I would say 60-70%, you will see a disconnect between the OT SOC and the Security Operations Center. And even though there is a tightly coupled integration between these two, the threat intelligence feeds, which is coming from enterprise SIM, is not nowhere connected with the OT Security Operations Center, because all the OT vendors give you your feed. Depending upon that feed, you have the incident which is coming to the SOC. So it's like you will see a disconnect here, but this is how the interface looks like with the OT in mind. And if you have OT SOC, it could be anything, and then your OT incident response. And obviously there is an interface between these two as well, because it's tightly coupled in the process. Moving forward, so important slide to consider why OT and IoT ecosystem is different. For instance, we have seen many of the threat intelligence feeds that we are gathering from either commercial tools or we are defining by ourselves. We don't consider that that architecture is different between OT and IoT. And sometimes these two terms interchangeably used. For example, IoT, OT, and industrial IoT, or Internet of Medical Things, or whatsoever Internet of Medical Vehicle of Things, whatever. So we have to consider that in comparative analysis, architecture is different in OT, and in IoT it's different. For example, in OT you have, for reference, same like in networking, you have OSI layer of networking, which is like a reference architecture given to you to understand how ecosystem work from application level to the physical layer. Same in architecture, you have Purdue levels, you have zones and conduits defined by the people. Just to mention, Purdue level is a reference architecture, it's not a security architecture. And usually you have zones and conduits and a tight network segmentation between the zones. However, in IoT ecosystem, the architecture is totally different. You have device layer, you have edge computing layer, you have fog computing layer, and then you have cloud computing layer. So it's like the connectivity when it comes to IoT ecosystem, it's a lot. For instance, a lot of hardware related hardening and controls can be applicable to IoT, but in OT, sometimes you don't consider because the devices are not capable to provide you those functionalities. So controls, again, it's totally different. The control that you put in OT, you can't apply on IoT because of, I said, connectivity issues. And then visibility and monitoring is again an issue, where in OT we have seen, even though we have IDS in place and everything in place, we have seen there are some of the choke points that we miss in OT. Why? Because we have various technical glitches. For example, my switches are not managed, and even if I do my port mirroring and all those stuff, my switch utilization will go high. Sometimes we have seen clients are very reluctant to deploy tap system because they are expensive. But if you want a more packet splicing and other use cases in OT, you need to deploy network packet brokers. Again, those are very expensive solution. So when it comes to IoT, it's very easy because everything is going to the fleet. So every level, like fog layer, edge layer, you can monitor everything in the cloud layer, and everything is going in the fleet, and which is can be tightly coupled with the same ecosystems. Then fourth one is vulnerability prioritization. That's the area within OT and IoT where a lot of professional, including myself, struggle a lot because CVSS score and common EPSS score, exploit prediction scoring system, known exploit vulnerabilities catalog of CISA. Sometimes they don't actually tell you what vulnerability is dangerous to you or no. For example, might be the case some CVSS score, the vulnerability with CVSS score of 8 is critical. However, in my OT system, I have tightly network segmentation and everything. I'll not bother to patch it. If patching that vulnerability is costing me or making some impact in my operation, I won't do it. Same goes to IoT system because my APTs are different, my attack vectors are different, my indicator of attack and TTPs are different. So vulnerability prioritization again is different in both the systems, I would say. Where in IoT, it's you can patch the system in a very frequently manner. However, in OT, it's not the case. And as I said, combining all the 4 pointers I have discussed, that concludes to the attack surface, which is, totally different. Because in IoT, you can have an attack which is enormously going. You can have botnets. Mirai botnet is one of the best example to give. But in OT, majority of the attacks are stage 2. So in order, if you have a stage 1, control already, or if you can defend the stage 1, stage 2 can be mitigated. Moving forward, so this slide, it's like a 3-tier CTI model that I have defined in order to better understand how threat intelligence within the organization flows from top to bottom and bottom to up. So at the top, you have CTI governance level, which is an overarching layer of all the tip layer, collection layer, and visibility and monitoring layer. And it governs all the 3 layers below. And that's where you have your CTI program in place. You have continuous maturity assessment, all these KPIs, KRIs in place just to operationalize the threat intelligence program, if you have one. And then below you have tip layer, which is your threat intelligence platform layer. And that layer includes your commercial tool, or it could be my personal favorite, MISP or OpenCTI, where you are having a single view of all the threat intelligence in your organization, and it's integrating all your internal feeds as well as external feed. And then the collection layer in the organization is very important, and where you have SIM solution which are integrated to your OT IDS solution or IoT fleets and all these system. And in order to gather security data centrally in your organization, it's reside in a SIM traditionally, and which is the collection layer. And might be the case you find instances where you have 3 to 4 SIM solution differently running, and out of those 3-4 solution, only one SIM solution is integrated to the OT or IoT fleet system or IDS system. So this is how the architecture works. Now, if I start from the bottom, you have visibility and monitoring layer, and you have multiple IDS system. It could be your network packet brokers. Just for the pictorial view, I embedded some of the pictures just to show you what kind of solution is there. Then they are connected via connectors to SIM solution, where you have amalgamation of all the security data coming from multiple sources. And then from this collection layer, if you are having some threat, for example, tactical threat intelligence, some signature coming from your eccu portals, or within UK, for example, NCSC early warnings, and they are asking you to check some certain signature. So you will come down and you will check in the collection layer whether it's there or no. So this is how the architecture works. And on the left-hand side, if you can see, this tip layer includes all the external CTI collected from your open source feeds or open source tool. It could be your internal threat hunters doing OSINT activities, actively chasing the campaigns and collecting all the CTI information and storing it to your tip layer. And as well as the same internal CTI information can be go to this tip layer for the lesson learned for the next time. If something, for example, you have to name a few, Ivanti appliances VPN, it was a 0-day exploit. So if something bad happened to you, you have all your IR procedure in place, you did your lesson learned, post-incident reviews and everything. Then you realized, all right, I have certain to learn about this, and all these TTPs will be collected and stored in tip layer for the future purposes. Now on the upcoming slide, I'll try to give you a challenges that we have in each and every layer and how you can mitigate those challenges. Now, on a very first level, if I talk about CTI governance, it's a very basic one. We have seen a lack of CTI strategy and governance. Unlike in finance sector, like we have within UK, we have CBAS system, which is threat intelligence led assessment run by Bank of England, PRA, and FCA. Then we have in EU, we have Tiber EU, which is like a TI based red teaming activities and all those stuff. So long story short, financial sector is more pro in terms of threat intelligence, whilst if we see other sectors, we don't see much of a thing coming from the regulation, much of a thing coming from industry, for example, framework. If I give some example, I mean, they say what will be the external and internal communication in terms of incident. These are the control which are there in your recover function in NIST and some other as well. However, making an end-to-end threat intelligence program, it's lacking somewhere. So this is the major challenge that we have in this layer, which is CTI governance. And obviously for the mitigation, you can build your CTI program iteratively. You can do your threat intelligence maturity assessment just to check in which scale you're lying and what is your target operating model will be, what's your ambition. Hypothetically, if you're in maturity level 1, for example, irrespective you're taking CMMI score or other score of maturity, if you are at 1 level and you want to reach 3, so what will be the initiative you should be taking in order for you to make your organization to reach 3? So all these things, all this initiative will be counted as a target operating model, and then you will follow all this initiative and all those stuff in order to reach to 3. Consider this as a cybersecurity requirement specification as per 62443. Just correlating stuff between the two. Then moving forward, if we see the tip layer, we have seen a lack of targeted CTI in context. And what I mean by that, we have seen a lot of critical national infrastructure where their threat intelligence program is managed by the IT folks. And I don't want to like demean and all those stuff, both OT and IT professional, because both are important, and their collaboration is important for us to reach something very beneficial. But lack of targeted CTI means we don't have anyone from OT side for, to give a better understanding of APTs, which is OT related. and threat profiling associated with that. Might be the case there are 1,000 APTs. It could be 40, 50. But if I'm in energy sector, I think related to me it would be 15 to 16 hypothetically, the APTs which I should consider and make a threat profiling according to that and check my MITRE, whatever framework, diamond model, whatever model I'm following, and to replicate and check my readiness for that. Same goes to, oil and gas. They have different APTs targeting them, and also your geopolitical analysis and all those stuff plays a key role here. And yeah, lack of targeted CTI and context. It's just that you have to understand which sector you are in, and then you have to profile a threats according to that. And then you don't have unified threat intelligence platform. We have seen that we have some of the open source CTI running at the same time we have commercial one, but we don't have centralized threat intelligence platform which can we can thought of single source of truth when it comes to all the threat intelligence coming to it. Plus, the more threat intelligence platform if you have deployed in your organization, the more old it becomes, the more rich in data it becomes. So centralization is very important in the tip. I'll take a pause to check the message. All right. Moving forward. So collection layer, this is the very important layer. Why? Because it merges your OT and IoT visibility layer into the tip layer. And without this collection layer, there will be always a gap in your threat intelligence program and your whether you're checking the campaigns and whether you're whether you're designing your detection rules and all those stuff. If this collection layer is not proper, you will always see there is a gap between the integration of tip layer and the visibility layer. So one of the key pointers, like the challenges we have in collection layer, which is a wider concern in IT as well. So it's not just OT, IoT, it's a wider concern as well in IT, which I have listed some of them. For example, lack of centralized security telemetry. As I said before, you have like 4 to 5 7 solution, and there is no centralization of security data lake. Now it's impossible and it's very difficult for people to check each and every portal, and every SIM solution has their different query languages and all those stuff. So it creates a lot of burden. You have some of the centralization. For example, you have Sigma rules to streamline some of your detection mechanism. So it's a good example to have, like, to centralize everything. You have queried at AI, from which you can query multiple SIM solution from one portal. However, centralization has to be there just to uniform and to make your team members aware of one solution instead of 5 to 6, and then challenges happens. Plus a more vendor involvement. And then second one would be no support for heterogeneous data. And what I mean by that, in SIM solution, you have structured data. They don't have support for heterogeneous data. And the third one will be data portability issue. So if you have one security solution and a SIM solution, for example, and you want to migrate it to another one, data portability becomes an issue. And then when you try to do it, the cost becomes so high that you stuck yourself into the vendor lock-in situation, which is a 6-1, which is siloed security data vendor lock-in system. So you cannot portable your data, so you become like vendor locked in, which is a problem. Then growing cost of data storage and retention, which is as day by day, as I told you, data gonna increase. And as data is becoming humongous, you can't be eradicating all the data you're collecting. You need it for further analysis. You have prediction model in place, which needs a lot of data to be corrected for their efficiency of algorithm. And then you have certain retention problem in SIM as well. Some region involves 30 days retention, some involves 60, might be the case in future. Some will involve 90, for example. And if you say this, the cost will go high, and this is the problem: growing cost of SIM solution and EPS and so whatnot. And again, as I said, scalability is an issue. If you want to scale from within one SIM solution, it will drill down to a lot of cost. The last one, which is my favorite, and a lot of OT professionals will agree on that we still have a lack of asset visibility and monitoring in this layer. And then we have siloed monitoring depending upon the environment, because sometimes we have a lot of one organization is having a global sites and everything. So you will see some region is running on different IDS solutions. Some region are running different solution. There is no integration between the two. There is no centralization. And again, even if there is a centralization and organization is mature enough to take a SaaS solution of these vendors, still they have siloed approach, because still SaaS solution are not tightly coupled with SIM solution, I would say, and still they run by their own. And when it comes to siloed monitoring, I want to stress one point is that sometimes even OT SOC is totally different. People are just differently managing it, only giving high alert, only meaningful or very critical incident data to the SIM for further analysis and all those L2, L3 actions. And then third one will be a lack of integration to the collection layer, which is like true and still it's in going in the industry, and we are progressing with it. Now, these are the challenges, and with the challenges, I told you what are the mitigations. So it's self-explanatory that if I explain challenges, you can know what are the mitigations are for the same. Just considering the time that we have for 30 to 35 minutes for this complex topic, I'm just making the challenges, and you can interpret yourself what will be the mitigation for those. And next slide, I will talk about the future state of OT and IoT CTI. And it's not just OT and IoT CTI, I would say it's a future state even for the IT. It's a future state of whole CTI as your organization. So if you see this slide, as I told you, we have a lot of glitches in the collection layer, and I'm stressing a lot to this collection layer alone that I mean, you have vendor lock-in problem, you can't take heterogeneous data and all those stuff. So the solution to this problem is that we have seen advancement in the industry wherein people are deploying security data lake. They are using tool like Snowflake, Lima Charlie, so what not, and they have like freedom to migrate their data. They have freedom to collect heterogeneous data. Plus, I would say next gen SIM, because there are SIM in the market which are built on top of security data lake, so that they can eradicate the problem of your vendor lock-in, the portability issue, the costing issue, and you can do your analysis furthermore. And the reason of adopting security data lake is with the fact that your data will only grow, and you can't expect to be only doing analysis of threat intelligence on your structured data. You need to have unstructured data in everything. You have to perform all that ETL, extract, transform, load of your data science in order to create it into the meaningful form. And if you split those collection layer into two, for example, one is to deploy the data security data lake, and what I mean by analytics layer, to put all your detection at one place, because we have different detection rule elsewhere in our OT environment. We have seen in IT people are using SNOT somewhere, some are using suricata detection rule, some are mature enough, they are using Sigma rules, they are correlating everything in one place. However, if analytics layer is having one place, having all the detection at one place, imagine how efficient your detection is, and how efficient for you to track all the threat intelligence information, tactical intelligence you're getting from your tip, just to cross check within a second. All right, is the problem reside within my environment or no? Something like this. And you can efficiently do a lot of things as well. For example, I mean, even from the CTI governance side, if you're doing rapid tabletop exercises and any other assessment, if you're doing, I think it will make a lot of impact. So as I said, the benefit: centralization of security telemetry, support for heterogeneous data, robust data portability. It's very cost effective, and you can scale your data to the infinite scale. I know it's cost effective, I'm saying, as compared to the same solution, but it comes with the cost and complexity. You have to have your analyst and your people to be trained in order to extract best out of security data lake, because we have seen example in the industry where you have state of the art security data lake, but people are not you can switch your all the same solution and move to security data lake. Everything comes with the challenges. However, you will see these kind of things in future very time soon. Moving forward, CTI and risk management. So in this slide, I'll talk about the overlap between cyber threat intelligence and risk management. And when I say risk management, I'm not talking about OT cyber risk or OT health related hazard risk, because those are the subset of enterprise risk management. We have to understand this key term very carefully, because you have enterprise risk management, you have ERM manual, you have enterprise risk register, and whatever risk you're getting. If I'm a OT specialist sitting in the site, I'm a risk champion, for example. If I'm collecting every risk, giving it to enterprise risk register, eventually it's their decision to take whether and how they want to mitigate that risk, because that is a different game altogether. It's up to them, not us. So I'm not talking about 62443-3-2 or other OT risk. I'm talking about overall enterprise risk management here. So if you can see, it's a very good maintained paper that I have extracted out, and I just copy pasted the photo because I really liked it. So jokes apart, we have vulnerability and patch management. TI can certainly give you a lot of insight when it comes to vulnerability and patch management. And then let me check my message. All right. Then you have threat landscape. You can do your risk calculation if you want to perform your cyber risk quantification. TI can help you with that. Then IP, intellectual property theft, and security operations, as I mentioned before. But yeah, critical one would be for me as a OT professional would be vulnerability and patch management and risk calculation if my higher management is asking me for that. Moving forward, so this is the qualitative example I took from the same research paper of Mendiant, where they have defined that if you have some situation here, for example, supply chain risk, how the CTI giving all your risk assessment sheet to the CTI department, and if you put one column more for CTI contribution, how that information will aid to your likelihood and consequences scale, and how you can further realize, all right, whether it's impactful for me or not. But again, whatever this analysis is happening, it's happening at the ERM level, not the OT level, because as I said, it's their decision to take whether they want to mitigate or to take any action, preventive action, corrective action, whatever they want for to do it with the risk. So it's their decision. So you can see, CTI how CTI can contribute with each and everything that you have in your findings, and then the recommendation according to that. And it's just like a qualitative example. Even if you are doing cyber hazard, or you have your 3-2 sheet open with you, or you have bow tie analysis and all those stuff, you can have CTI people to contribute into those kind of sheets if you want in your OT level, at site level, if you're performing it as a risk champion. Then this example is about a quantitative analysis. I know OT risk quantification is very debating topic, but here I have given you example of how threat intelligence, for example, on the left-hand side, you can see a tactical threat intelligence on a sticks format, and it has a various attributes along with it. And on the right-hand side, I have FAIR framework, one of the widely known framework for cyber risk quantification, CRQ. Which is factor analysis of information risk. And as per that, risk is comprises of loss event frequency, loss magnitude with other vertical. And it's a very good paper by Wadi Baker, where he has defined how how threat intelligence feeds can contribute to your threat capability. And then associated level, you can define, all right, how critical my likelihood is of that threat of doing it. Might be the case threat is very high, but likelihood is very low. I don't see those APTs reaching into that stage to and exploiting my PLC and RTOs at place. So it will aid a lot of things, and it will cut down a lot of junk also from your risk assessment. And again, I take example of FAIR. You can take example of any other, like framework that you're using for it. As I mentioned before, my personal favorite is cyber hazard or cyber bow tie analysis, because it's a true description of that. And I can define everything in a better way. And if I'm in automobile industry, definitely I'm going to follow FIMICA, FIMIA, MSR, and all those procedures. So yeah, that's a brief about CTI and risk management. Then moving forward for the future trends. So I'll start with OT and IoT targeted CTI strategy and governance. Definitely it's going to be a future trend. You will see some initiative. Then increase in the adoption of data lakes in SecOps cloud platform, as I mentioned before. Then third one is organization will try to escape the SIM lock-in. I'm an employee of organization. All right, I'm a professional. I don't own my own company, but if I have one, definitely I'll escape the SIM lock-in because it's like, okay, I don't have freedom for my security data. And then fourth one will be prediction models will aid the cyber threat intelligence. And which is true, you have AI models. My personal favorite is genetic algorithm and neural network. So if you have any chance to play with MATLAB or TensorFlow, just try to have if you can do this exercise by yourself, just try to have MITRE ATT&CK, key parameters, and all this input to output of, if you can make one training model of input of some random IPs or indicator of attacks or whatever TTPs is there to the output of APT. And if you train that data, you will be surprised how good, I mean, the prediction model is providing true value to cyber threat intelligence, but it's heavily dependent on your data. Your data has to be in centralized place like data lake. Otherwise, it's not possible to do it. The fourth one will be OT risk quantification plus CTI. Again, it's very highly debatable topic because, let me check my message. All right. So coming back to OT cyber risk quantification plus CTI, I told you it's very debatable topic because if you ask me as a OT professional and I'm performing my hazard operability studies and someone falls from scaffolding or something like this, there is no dollar value to the human life. I'll not be able to do it. However, at the board level, and when you be there in the CISO representation, you will see you have to have dollar value because all the fundings and initiative is directly proportional to the risk you have, and so not worth. I mean, might be the case. We have seen some instances where cyber insurance companies asking for that, even though you can give the clarification as a OT professional. All right, guys, I'll not give you the dollar value of human loss. I can't provide it, but they need that answer. So you have to find solution in between. A straight no will not take you nowhere. So yeah, this will be a future trend for it. And moving forward. Oh, so I think I'm on time, and yeah, that's a conclusion of the talk. I hope you like it. And Shilpa, over to you. I'm open to any Q&A if you have any.
Yes. Thank you so much, Asif, for delivering such an informative session, and our attendees share the same sentiments. If you're interested to learn more about our program, do let us know in the poll that's going to be conducted now. If you would like to learn more, please select yes, and we will schedule a call to provide you with more information. Also, an important note, admissions are presently open. For comprehensive details regarding our courses, kindly visit our official website www.eccu.edu. Link is mentioned in the chat section. So, Asif, shall we start with the Q&A?
Yep.
Okay. So our first question to you is, could you please explain the predictive model again in terms of career prospects? How is diving into OT and IoT marketable for new cybersecurity enthusiasts?
Okay. So I think my voice is echoing, Shilpa. Is that fine? Can you hear me well now?
Yes, I can hear you. Please
Okay.
proceed.
So when it comes to predictive models, I would say better to start with the field of AI and the field of genetic algorithms and artificial algorithm that you have, or you can start with I would say AI and SI swarm intelligence is a field to go for first. And when you go in these field, you will see there is two types of learning: supervised learning, unsupervised learning. And for supervised learning, you will see a certain algorithm which will give you supervised learning based on training data. And then one will be unsupervised learning algorithm, which will give you anticipation of something based on the training data which you give to them. So I would say tooling wise, you should jump to MATLAB because it's very easy. They have certain exercises for genetic algorithm, artificial neural network, and some other like fuzzy logic. Same goes to TensorFlow. They have predefined models that you can download and you can implement. And it's not just OT, IoT, it's widely used. For example, in IDS, a normal detection based on signature, you can do it by yourself using, for example, neural network. So it's like a 2-column, you make source output and it will predict the future for you. For example, if my name is there and then OT professional, then my name is there something else. So in the future, if you give training model to the algorithm, it will predict. So if something, my name is there, it will predict OT cybersecurity professional, something like this. I'm giving you very light touch just to go about it without any technical jargons.
Thank you so much, Asif, for answering that question. Our next question to you is, I am not an OT threat professional, but I work with OT, so I'm trying to increase my knowledge with OT protection to get more opportunities in my job. Do you have any tips on where to start?
Yep. So the best way to start with it, I mean, first thing, do whatever you're doing very fine because you have to be doing your activities just to cope up with that. But you can start learning more about OT and IoT related APTs. For example, Dragos and all these organizations, Mandiant, they have a very good RCA reports for the OT related APTs. So you can go for it, and it's very valuable resources to go for. And honestly, if you're going, I mean, ahead with OT, IoT, I mean, since you're in technical domain, not in governance, otherwise I would have said, okay, read about 62443 and other things. But if you're in technical domain, I think you should be more concerned about the intelligence, not the actual domain. So I would say, just try to look which is useful for you, which is like APTs and the threat. What are the threat to OT and IoT? So I think go with it.
Thank you, Asif, for answering that question. Our next question to you is, how do you deal with the problem of data quality and consistency from OT and IoT device environments? This might contain the data lake model.
So again, very complex question. Why? Because I have to gather what my data is at first place. And there is always a complexity with it because data is coming with different sources. Every data has some characteristic. You have to streamline, extract all the data, and you have to transform it into some structure form. So I would say first thing is you have to make a technical reference architecture for this thing, right? You have to see what are the extraction, what are the data sources you have in place, and then accordingly, when you extract this data and transform into your data lake, then you have to define what are the characteristic of each and every source you have to take. Might be the case from one data source I need only column A and B, and it's giving me column 10, for example. That's not useful for me. So what I'll do is I'll make accordingly the model, and then again, as per Snowflake and other solution, everyone has the different nomenclature, and we have to read the manual and follow the instruction how we can load that solution with it. And definitely for deciding the quality of data, you have to have person who knows what they want to do and what they want from the data. Otherwise, we will be extracting data, redefining it, but are the data useful? Someone has to review it. CTI specialist or whatever it is, you have to have that concise problem statement at first place.
Thank you, Asif, for answering that question. Our next question to you is, how soon OT security will be a thing for all the companies? As of now, most places still stuck with SOC, SOR, etc.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, sure. So the question is, how soon OT security will be a thing for all the companies? As of now, most places are still stuck with SOC and SOR, SOAR.
Okay. So the answer is it totally dependent on regulations. If your country is not giving you regulations, no one will do anything. Let's be honest about it. If I don't have any penalties and regulation, I'll not do anything out of my curiosity. And even if I go to my higher management, they will not approve it. So definitely there are some upcoming regulations, countries, a lot of region I have seen taking a lot of good initiative for that. And people are thinking about OT security. They are thinking about the glitches. They are coming into the conclusion. They are doing fine. And obviously, first thing is for the organization to identify, because I think still 30% of the organization don't even know they have OT and IoT. So a device characterization and identification of asset has to be there to identify you have that stuff or no. So yes, I mean, it will be a there. It is there already, and the future seems like all right. There will be a lot of initiative, but not to deviate from this fact, a lot of connectivity will be there between OT critical isolated system that we have traditionally and within the OT, and you cannot escape that. As a professional, you have to find a problem, how you can streamline the connectivity between the two instead of saying bluntly, all right, connectivity is not possible. So that's a forte for it.
Thank you, Asif, for answering that question. Our next question to you is, how can organizations view all their active IoT and OT devices and maintain them?
How can you repeat the same? I'm sorry, like I have a problem.
No, it's fine. How can organizations view all their active IoT and OT devices and maintain them?
So basically, traditionally organization look for those devices as an asset only until you tell them those are critical asset and they can do something. Consequences or the failure of that, failure of those assets can lead you catastrophe when it comes to financial impact or whatever impact is there. They will consider OT asset like a normal asset until that thing is defined. And what was the other part of question?
It was like, how can they maintain them?
Yeah, so again, the maintenance is a different thing, because for the maintenance, still companies are having a lot of good procedure. For example, failure mode and effect analysis, FEMI studies, where they have everything including, all right, what will the failure of that asset will lead to what? And they have very good corrective, detective, and preventive maintenance, and they have everything in place. So maintenance is something a different area uh, instead of cybersecurity, I would say. But again, cybersecurity aid the maintenance activity as well.
Thank you, Asif, for answering that question. Our next question to you is, why IoT is not secured?
IoT is not secure because you have commercial off-the-shelf tools which are not hardened, they are not certified. People are not aware if uh, in some companies, procurement department just procuring everything based on business cases of the managers and shop floor people, but they are not realizing or that the device has to be certified. Have you checked the device whether it's common criteria certified, whether the cryptographic module within the device is FIPS 140-3 compliance or no? No, we haven't checked it. We are not checking any firmware whether there is a hard-coded credential within the firmware. And if we have the example in the industry, it happened. So that's why IoT device, I mean, and they all come with default credentials, so not what. So that's why they are very, I would say, vulnerable. And plus, it depends how much functionality they are giving to you. Because if your IoT have the typical example, you have the IoT device, it's giving all the traffic directly to the cloud, for example, or device to cloud, and it don't have any functionality to provide any integration with your enterprise PKI environment. How you gonna perform the cryptography? Again, it's a challenge. So that's why I see those devices like that's the reason they are vulnerable and they are directly exposed.
Thank you, Asif, for answering that question. I will take last two questions for the day.
Thank
So
God
our
for
next question to you is, yeah,
you
we
have
have a
too
lot
many
of
questions.
questions. Yeah. So our next question to you is, how to get the knowledge about IoT devices and their features, secure a job in this domain, and control everything from a single dashboard.
So how to control IoT, like how to secure the IoT device from?
Yeah, how to get the knowledge about IoT devices and their features, secure a job in this domain, and control everything from a single dashboard.
Okay, so first thing you have to take the data sheet of that device, that what device is offering you. because data sheet of every product will tell you what is the certification of that device, what the functionality that device can give it to you and everything. And when you have multiple those devices taken by you, centrally you have to see what are the possibility, you have to centrally manage them. It could be portal, it could be SIM integration, it could be anything. So centrally you can manage that. And then you have to see like, I would say, I would urge everyone to go to HiveMQ platform and look what the work and they are doing and their blogs. It's very informative when you are in IoT and you're trying to gather information of this sort, like managing everything by, so they have everything, like how they translate every protocol into OPC UA protocol and then centrally manage every IoT equipment and everything. So I think that's a go-to place for it.
Thank you so much, Asif, for answering that question. Our last question to you is, what is the best way to perform a pen test in an IoT or OT environment?
In IoT environment, the best way I would say, you have the device, just do it, whatever you want to do. You can start with the firmware analysis and all those stuff, which is like a static thing you're doing, but you can integrate, you can make your lab. That's the best way to test those devices. And in OT, I'm afraid it depends on environment. If you have certain things, I mean, in environment, no one will allow you to do it, OT pen testing in OT, until they have lab. Or my personal favorite would be to replicate the environment in digital twin environment, for example, Simomatic, to name a few, and then do a pen testing there with the IP and everything and give result to your client as a valuable information, just to tell them you have 0 days in your place. But yeah, again, it comes with the cost, it comes with complexity, whether your client is allowing you to do it or no. But yeah, that's the best thing to do it in a virtual lab environment instead of live environment, I would say.
Thank you so much, Asif, and thank you again to our wonderful speaker for answering those questions and for the great presentation and knowledge shared with our global audiences. It was a pleasure to have you with us, and we are looking for more and more sessions with you. Now,
Likewise,
before we conclude,
likewise.
yeah,
Likewise. And one more thing, Shilpa, just to mention, if someone I didn't answer appropriately to them or I didn't interpret their questions, if you can redirect those questions to me, I'm happy to answer in detail.
yeah, sure. Thank you. So now, before we conclude our webinar, Asif, would you like to give a small message to our audience?
Yeah, the message would be that I mean, don't be too harsh on the situation and the professionalism that we have in OT, IoT, and IT, because a lot of to and fro communication, you will see that IT people are a bit reluctant, and the people who are coming from automation to cybersecurity, and then so not what coming from IT to OT, for example, having a knowledge. I mean, in order to reach somewhere when it comes to security and all those stuff, I think we have one important message would be to embrace the change. We all need to embrace the change. Might be the case, whatever our mindset or skill set is 2 years before or today, might be the case we need to change it with the change after 2 years. So embrace the change and look for the solution instead of straight away thinking that it can't be done. Everything is doable when it comes to securing the device and whatever it is. I think we need to embrace the change, and we need to, as a cybersecurity professional, I think our job is to create a solution to the problem instead of saying, all right, this can't be done. So that would be a message to the wider audience. And that's it for me. And thanks for attending, to all the people, because you sacrificed your weekends already. So thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Asif, for the message to our audience.